what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Stop it!
We're Lauren and Craig, and we're travelling around North America in our self-converted camper van. Craig's the designated driver, while I'm the trip planner and navigator. This is Ruby, our home on wheels for the next 6 months. And this bloody legend is Roland the rowboat. We love hiking and wildlife, so most of our time is spent at national parks and exploring the wilderness. This is part 2. We're starting off in Arizona, and then we're going to make our way through New Mexico, Colorado and Utah. Our first stop in Arizona was Horseshoe Bend, where there's an insane view looking down at the Colorado River. When we visited in 2010, we were the only people here, so it was a bit of a shock seeing how busy it had become. We then made our way to Lake Powell, where we planned to take Roland the rowboat out, but the winds were horrendous. A local recommended this hike through a canyon, and it was a lot more adventurous than we anticipated. Once it all opened up at the end, we arrived at the Colorado River.
Maybe it's the other way. Sand flies everywhere, but it's very beautiful.
Next stop was Monument Valley, but as soon as we arrived, storms surrounded us. We ended up waiting it out all day in the rain. As soon as it was time for sunset, the sun pierced onto the rock formations, and it was one of the most incredible views.
With where the tent cars are, and it's $20 a night.
Here's someone putting up their tent right next to us.
The reality, but the view is bloody amazing, so we don't mind for $20 and a rare occasion paying for a campground. Just had a lovely hot shower. We have hot porridge. It was a really cold night up here, and the view is still very beautiful.
The Grand Canyon National Park was only a short detour from us, so we decided to head there for the day.
Stir fry on the menu. And the little national forest area outside Grand Canyon. And we have another little elk. Hey buddy.
Now it's time for us to head south to a new area of Arizona that we haven't seen before, and our first stop is Sedona, where we spent a few days hiking and camping in the desert.
Oh, the water's perfect.
It was early May, but the weather was already scorching hot, and we realised our ambitious plan to drive south to Texas wasn't going to happen. We made a little compromise, as I desperately wanted to see the giant saguaro cacti, so we drove a couple hours south, and finally we were surrounded by them.
Okay, excellent, very nice.
Okay, that's all.
Cheers.
Craig's got his vino. I've got a lovely ale that I found. Peachy. Evening shower. Welcome to your dinner.
After a night camping beside the cacti, we headed to Winslow, Arizona. I was pretty excited about this stop because my surname is Winslow, so when we signed a guest book in the town, I wrote in the comments that it was my town and smirked at the owner and walked off. We did a few more stops along the Route 66, we checked out the petrified forest, caught a cool sunset, and then we crossed the border into New Mexico. It was our first time in New Mexico, and while we were expecting desert scenery, we ended up finding mountains and hot springs.
So we're in New Mexico, and this is how we woke up. Bit of a snowfall last night, completely unexpected. It's hard to believe we're in the desert just a few days ago.
We made sure to visit Taos Pueblo, which is a multi-storey adobe complex which has been inhabited by Native Americans for centuries.
It's not a tornado. I don't know what it is, but it's spiraling. Surely it's someone's having a fire.
No.
It's a giant dust devil.
Yeah, a fucking tornado.
It's not a tornado, it's a dust devil.
Look at it, that's fucking epic.
After about a week, we crossed into Colorado, another new state for us, and we were greeted by wild horses.
Oh, this is like bondage, this is.
Our first stop in Colorado was the Great Sand Dunes National Park, where there's a huge expanse of these rolling sand dunes backed by snowy peaked mountains. We swapped the sand dunes for mountains as we headed up the $1 Million Highway. When we arrived at Molas Pass at over 3,000 metres altitude, we decided the view was too good to say goodbye to, so we decided to camp there for the evening.
We are at 10,900 feet and we have a hell of a view outside. Beautiful mountains. Craig's found his little position to enjoy the view. Yeah.
Cheers.
Craig's on snow collecting duty for our esky. Out of ice.
The scenery was constantly changing, from snowy mountains and lakes to gorges and waterfalls, and we even drove through some colourful gold rush towns. There was a lot of evidence of avalanches that had happened in winter, and huge patches of forest had been totally wiped out from them.
Avalanche number 4. Oh, blimey.
We then headed to the very popular Hanging Lake Trail, which had gorgeous coloured water and lots of waterfalls around it. We made our way to the small town of Buena Vista, where there's a view of the 12 mountains that rise over 14,000 feet.
All that weather's rolling in now.
The area seemed perfect to spend a few days, and we found a free camping spot in the national forest that was high up above the lake and had amazing views of the mountains.
Prime view. Look at this. Pretty windy and cold outside at the moment, but the sun has come out, but we can still enjoy the view. We're inside Ruby, so we're going to do some arts and crafts and have a nice cup of tea. Snowing a lot now.
There was news on the radio of a big storm coming our way. It was going to bring heavy snowfall and strong winds, and it didn't seem like the best place for us to be. It was a big shame, as we still had places we wanted to explore in Colorado, but there was no point sitting in our van in the cold for a week, so we headed west back to Utah. We made our way towards Moab, a very popular town for adventurous souls.
Feels so good to leave that storm in Colorado.
The storm seemed to follow us here, but at least it was hot weather and just rainstorms. The desert can be quite a dangerous place when it rains, especially if you're in a canyon, as the water can just flood through. But we hiked a pretty safe trail, and it was fascinating to see all the water gush down like a river where it had been dry just moments before. Moab is home to some spectacular desert scenery, so we spent our days hiking in the national parks surrounding it. We accidentally visited on a bank holiday weekend, which meant the area was packed with people. So instead of doing a busy hike, we decided to take Roland the rowboat out on the Colorado River.
We're gonna head up the Colorado River.
Hopefully not capsize.
Hey.
Ready?
I go straight from the bank, gassing up the tank, cranking up the radio, playing old Hank, it ain't that long.
As we pumped our boat up in the scorching sun and then put her into the cold water, she deflated quite a bit, which meant the boat was bending like mad in the rapids.
Cruising, baby, get a little stuck. It's a Saturday joyride. Percy Beast is the spot. We're on a boat, we're feeling fine. Drinking Tennessee whiskey, a big blue sky. We're going up, we're coming down. There's a party on the water, it's a hell of a time. We're on a boat, we're killing time. In our own honky tonk with a bottle of wine. We're going up, we're coming down. Cheers to feeling alright, it's a hell of a time.
It was more like whitewater rafting than a gentle float trip, but we had so much fun, even if it was bloody scary at times.
Yeah, we're chilling out here. Ladies in the rear, the feet in the water.
For our final day in Moab, we headed up some quiet country roads to check out a different area of the desert.
What a nice view you have.
Get to dancing, I get to chancing, kissing that country girl, romancing, a whole lot of love, bumping out of the bar. Yeah, we're on a boat, we're feeling fine, drinking Tennessee whiskey, a big blue sky. We're going up, we're coming down.
As we left the area, we watched the sun go down and the rocks turn red for the final time. Now our journey is going to take us north, through Wyoming, Idaho and Montana.